I just backed out. I backed the heck out of that project like nobody's business. Well, hello there and welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing well. This is the second time that I'm recording this episode. I cannot remember the last time that this happened, but my microphone, which is a new microphone by the way, like when I brought it into my editing software, there was just a plethora of static that was just not workable. So here we are again. I'm sitting down with you. The show must go on, and yeah, I've got a really fun episode for you guys. I'm going to be catching you up on the state of my Bubble Cardigan by Stephen West, and then I thought it would be fun to share with you some patterns that I'm thinking about casting on for the autumn fall season. So these are just patterns that have kind of been hanging out in my Ravelry queue and patterns that have caught my eye while browsing Ravelry and on Instagram. Thought that would be fun to share with you in case you are also on the prowl for some new and shiny projects to cast on. So if that's your thing and you're new here, welcome to my little corner of the interwebs. If you haven't already, feel free to like and subscribe down below. I put out knitting content for your viewing pleasure every week, and without further ado, let's get into the episode. But wait, what's that? YouTube wants to show a commercial? Really? Now? All right. And welcome back. Thank you so much for indulging YouTube for a moment there. Progress on my Bubble Cardigan. Again, this is a pattern by Stephen West, and you guys, I am making so much progress. I don't know, who am I? Who am I? Look at this thing. It is a beast. If you are just tuning in, this might not look exactly like a cardigan, and that is because I've modified the pattern to steek it. So originally the pattern is knit flat, back and forth, back and forth. I honestly don't mind purling, but for a sweater, a cardigan this huge, I wasn't down for purling for long rows on end. I have my good friend Tanya to blame for inspiring me to do this because it is absolutely genius. It is so stupid simple. By adding this center column of steeking stitches, this allows me to join my work in the round, so I can just knit in the round, knit in the round. I'm surprised at myself that this has held my interest for as long as it has. I mean, I just can't put it down. Can't stop, won't stop. But I partially attribute that to knitting this in the round, and also because, as you can see, there are quite a lot of stripes, so it's definitely one of those situations where it's like just one more stripe, just one more stripe, just wait, one more stripe. And speaking of color changes, I recently published a video tutorial on how I've been weaving in my ends as I'm knitting. So as I go along, I'm just weaving in my ends, so I'm not left with all this glorious yarn barf on the wrong side to weave in individually. So if you can imagine, that would just be a nightmare. I typically do not mind, weaving in my ends after the fact that, I'm finished with the project and it's blocked. Normally I find that very relaxing, meditative, but with this project, no, my friends, this is not gonna happen. So while it does look like yarn barf right now, these are actually all woven in ends. So all I have to do when I'm done knitting is just trim them. I'm just letting them hang out until I'm officially done with this project and I've blocked it, because I feel like if I trim these too soon, it might be a little too short, and if I block it, I don't know, I just want to leave a little bit of insurance there just in case, if that makes any sense. So yeah, but by the way, thank you so much to everybody for the wonderful feedback on that tutorial. I will link to it in the doobly-doo up here if you want to save it for further reference or check it out. But yeah, that was just a really fun tutorial to shoot and share, because as always, I love, whenever I learn a new technique, I just have to share it with you guys. I can't help it. I don't know if you guys can hear this in the background, and I sincerely apologize, but there is a dog on my block. I don't know, the neighbors just let it hang out in the front yard, and it shriek barks. It doesn't bark, it just shrieks all day long, and it drives me a little batty, I'm not gonna lie. I've heard this dog bark nonstop ever since we moved here 6 years ago. So anyway, I'm amazed I'm not desensitized to it. As I was saying, now that I finished knitting the body, I'm now knitting the ribbing, and when I was done knitting the body in the round and I was ready to knit the ribbing, I switched back to knitting back and forth, back and forth. And there's a reason for that. I think when it comes to steeking, it's more of an aesthetic thing, if that makes any sense. But anyway, I am going to be filming a video tutorial on how I steek this cardigan because I know a lot of you are interested in that. So that is the status of the Bubble Cardi, a pattern by Stephen West. Highly, highly recommend it if you are thinking about casting it on. All right, my friends, let's talk some patterns. And again, these are patterns that I'm just itching to cast on this season because they just speak to my soul on so many levels. And that's not to say that I'm going to cast on all of these projects. I don't think that would be humanly possible. Why would I do that to myself? Why would I do that to myself? We've learned from this experience, Kristen. This is never a good idea. But anyway, we can dream, we can fantasize about casting on all the things at once, right? But anyway, if you are on the prowl for some new and shiny cast-ons, gather around, grab a cup of something, because we're gonna get into them, and there are quite a few. So let's kick things off, shall we? I took notes, guys. I'm so proud of myself. Anyway, rare form today, guys. Thanks for bearing with me. This first pattern is called The Wake and Wave by Carissa Browning. It's such a beautiful crescent shawl and looks like a lot of fun to knit. And this pattern recently made it onto my Ravelry queue because once again, Bubblegirlknits, hello! Once again, I brought her up in the past because seriously, everything that she knits is just absolutely stunning, absolutely beautiful. Yeah, I am a huge fan of all of her makes. And I'll link to her Instagram feed down below so you can check them out. But her knitting and her photography, just so beautiful. And not to toot my own horn, she knit this pattern using Voolenvine yarns, the colorways that I dyed, a kit that I put together. My mind was blown, and dare I say, I wanted to make one myself. So, you know, it's been hanging out on my Ravelry queue. I don't know if I'm going to be using the same colors that she used, but I don't know. I'm kind of letting it marinate. It's there in my queue when the mood strikes. Again, it's just a beautiful crescent-shaped shawl. It looks like there's some eyelet details in there, some brioche, and dare I say some short row shaping. And it's been quite some time since I've used short row shaping in a shawl. I think the last time I did that was with a Stephen West pattern, which has been forever ago. Anyway, it looks like a really fun pattern that really holds your attention, and I am here for it. So are those welts? Oh, I think there are welts. Wow. Okay, I'm here for this pattern. Next up, surprise, surprise, another shawl, and Double Surprise by Stephen West. I am on a Stephen West kick, it appears, guys. It's weird because it seems like I go through phases of knitting all the Stephen West patterns and then phases of not knitting Stephen West patterns, knitting them and then not, and it appears I'm riding the Stephen West wave at the moment. So I'm not questioning it. I'm going for it, and you know, hey. But this is the Dustland shawl, a newish pattern that he just came out with. I love it because it's so Stephen West, and at the same time it's not. I forget if it's a crescent-shaped shawl or a half-pie shawl, but it's Stephen West in the fact that it's comprised of all these textured, alternating stitches, but not your typical Stephen West pattern in that it's knit all in one color. So this would be a really, really beautiful pattern for any, I don't know, maybe several skeins of, you know, like really lovely cormo or wool. This would be a great pattern for that. I mean, I've just been kind of lusting after it ever since I saw it. Next up, we have a pullover. Finally, some garments. It's so funny, guys. I know I talk about how I'm kind of over knitting shawls because, let's be honest, I have quite a few shawls in my wardrobe at the moment. I definitely do not need any more, but there's something about shawl knitting that is just so therapeutic and fun and just like lets you play with color. But yes, this next pattern, I'm so gonna butcher this name, I apologize, but I believe it's the Smrocked Pullover by Svetlana Volkova. I know I butchered that and I apologize, but again, this pattern is just such a simple, basic pullover with a feather and fan yoke. The feather and fan stitch is such a traditional, tried and true stitch pattern, and you know, it feels like it's been played over and over again, but I'm always amazed and dare I say delighted whenever I see it pop up in newer patterns because it just never gets old. It's just such a wonderful, versatile stitch, and yeah, this pattern definitely speaks to that. So yeah, definitely check out the Smaragd. Kristen, why do you even try? Why do you even try? Some yarn did actually come to mind when I saw this pattern, and that is this Highland Superwash Soft Twist by Cloudborne. And I picked this up to knit some color work in the past, but I will be honest, If you've been watching this channel for quite some time, you know I err on the side of dark shades. My favorite color is mauve, and I wear a lot of black and grays. I don't know what I was thinking when I picked this shade out, but clearly whenever I think about casting something on with it, I look in the mirror and I say, Kristen, you can't be this person. I'm not this person. I cannot be this person. I am not oatmeal. Sometimes I get excited about ideas and I let them get the better of me, and then I come to terms with the fact that, yeah, this is just not my shade. I mean, I'm sure I could get away with it, but at the same time, it's not happening. So anyway, I think this would be lovely yarn for that pattern, but I would definitely go for something on a more charcoal gray, charcoal black shade, if that makes any sense. I mean, it does, because that's what I wear. That's the only thing I wear. And now we are moving back into Shawland with the Woodlark Shawl by Fibertails. And side note, I just realized I did not include any hats. I did not include any mittens or socks in this list. I don't know, I really just haven't been into knitting hats or socks, it seems. So yes, this is primarily just pullovers, garments, and shawls for the most part. So I hope you guys are down with that. But yes, the Woodlark Shawl by Fibertails is a beautiful triangular shaped shawl, and the colorwork just has these really beautiful traditional looking motifs. And the one thing that this has been on my Ravelry queue for quite some time, and I will be honest, I was very apprehensive to cast it on because at first glance I automatically thought that, oh, it must be mosaic knitting. And while mosaic knitting is not very hard at all, I would actually liken it to knitting brioche, where you're working one row twice, except you're just slipping stitches. So very, very easy, but again, it does take up, you know, quite a bit of time. So I kind of avoided it, but once I sat down and read through the pattern directions, or I should say the description on the Ravelry page, it turns out, are you ready for this? It's not knit mosaically, it's knit in the round, and then it's steeked. I mean, steeking. It's one of the most brilliant knitting techniques out there, and once you do your first steek, it's like you're just gonna wanna steek all the things. Trust me on this. I cannot wait. I cannot wait to record this steeking tutorial, guys. Your minds will be blown. And you know, if you are curious, you don't have to wait around for my tutorial. There are plenty of steeking tutorials out there. Just go on YouTube and search steeking tutorial. I mean, it's the second biggest search engine next to Google. I'll get off my soapbox now. But anyway, I am so in love with this pattern. I am definitely considering casting it on in the near future. It just feels so woodsy and folklory, and yeah, it just, again, this pattern just speaks to my soul. Yeah, so that is the Woodlark Shawl by Fibertails. And we are back into pullover land with the Laurel Jumper by Along avec Anna. And in French, that means along with Anna, which I really liked. I love that play on words. And this pattern actually kind of reminds me of Andrea Mowry's stone crop pullover, because while I do love a good bobble, I don't like them back to back. This one just has no bobbles whatsoever, and you know, it's just a really sweet, really fun pullover. I mean, it just looks like a lot of fun to knit. And you know, this would be perfect if you have any gradient yarns in your stash or spin cycle yarns. I actually have this yarn by Patons Kroy that I was considering using for the stone crop pullover, but again, the baubles gave me cold feet and I just backed out. I backed the heck out of that project like nobody's business. Anyway, so here we are. I'm left with some Patons Kroy in my stash and can totally see casting on this project with this yarn. Again, it would work perfectly in tandem with this yarn, the Cloudborn, but again, I'm very much on the fence about this color. I don't know, what do you guys think? I mean, I know I could pull it off, but I'm just afraid if I cast it on and knit the whole thing, I'm not going to want to gravitate towards it. I'm thinking, yeah, I might destash this. I mean, it's too late for me to return it to Webs, but you know, I could destash this and always get like a darker charcoaly gray shade to go with this right here. But again, we shall see. Oh my goodness, that dog. Seriously, these neighbors, they just sit out on their stoop and they let this dog bark at passersby. They don't do anything. They don't tell it to shush. They just let it bark. It's no way to live. Anyway, I apologize. 2 more to get through, my friends. This next one should come as no surprise. This is the Milady by Tricot Design. If you have been tuning into this channel for some time, you know that I fell down a very deep rabbit hole when it comes to Victorian and Edwardian fashion. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm still very, very interested in that era, the fashion, the style, and the work that went into creating those garments. I'm just not... I'm no longer interested in making those garments for myself. It's definitely a labor of love, but you know, while I do appreciate some people like Bernadette Banner and Kathy Hay, who they've made it their lifestyle to live in period garments, and I salute them. I think they're brilliant, and I love watching them and you know, their process. But for me, it's not my jam, guys. It's not practical for my lifestyle, and I'm completely okay appreciating it from afar for the art that it is and just learning about the era, just learning about the history, and yeah, it's just something that's still very near and dear to my heart, and we'll never get sick of it. But I'm definitely over the whole phase of making the garments. And yes, if you recall, I did make a corset, I did make a Victorian walking skirt. While they were fun to make, I'm just not gonna wear them every day. Especially now, because guys, it is 91 degrees Fahrenheit here in Brooklyn. I'm getting a bit schwitzy. So let's press on, shall we? But as I mentioned, this pattern should come as no surprise that it made it onto my queue, because it just screams Edwardian, my friends. This pullover has subtly puffed sleeves that balloon out into a tight cuff around the wrist, and the cuff itself has this beautiful like eyelet lace motif. And then also there's, I don't want to say it's a full turtleneck, but it's a very high collar. Again, the same motif that's on the cuff. And yeah, well, I'm not into turtlenecks ever. I could totally see pulling this off. It's just such a beautiful, simple, elegant pullover that I think would fit perfectly in my wardrobe, dare I say. I could definitely see knitting this pattern using some of my own hand-dyed yarn from my stash and holding it together with some mohair, although I will be totally honest, I'm kind of over riding the mohair wave. But anyway, that's not to say that I will never knit with mohair again. I think I just need a little break from it. But yes, last but not least, we have the Koru pullover by Johanna. This one has a deep boat neck with drop sleeves, and then it has this beautiful simple lace motif happening around the neckline, which I am just so in love with. But the other cool thing is that the lace motif continues on the sleeve. I think this pattern is the one that's going to get cast on first, and I'm still kind of trying to decide which yarn I want to use for it. Again, I don't think I have anything in my stash that's really speaking or calling out to me for it, but this weekend, who knows, maybe I will make a trip to a yarn shop and treat myself. I think it's been quite some time since I've treated myself to some yarn. But yes, that is the Koru pattern by Johanna. And I believe all of these patterns are fingering weight. Did I mention that? I did not. With the exception of the Dustland shawl by Stephen West, which is DK. So I guess we can gauge where Kristen's yarn brain is at the moment. We're definitely in pullover land, we're in shawl land, and fingering weight land. So yeah, that is, I guess that's me as a knitter in a nutshell these days, if that's how you want to look at this episode as. That was a lot to get through. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you are still here, I hope you found this video helpful and inspiring. Let us know in the comments below what patterns are on your radar. What patterns are you thinking about casting on or itching to cast on for the upcoming season? Because as someone who hails from the Northern Hemisphere, I know not everyone's going into the autumnal season at the moment. So I'm still curious to know what you plan on knitting or what's inspiring you. Let us know in the comments below. And again, thank you so much for hanging out. And until the next video, have an amazing day, have an amazing weekend, and I'll see you next time. Bye!